Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. My name is Jeremy Burton. I'm the Executive Director of the Jewish Community Relations Council of Greater Boston. We're very grateful to everyone who's with us. Just to give you a sense of what's going on, tonight and throughout this week of Hanukkah, all around the nation, Jewish communities are gathering to shine a light on anti-Semitism. And it doesn't take any remarks from me to remind us that this has been a challenging year around the country and here in Boston, where our community was violently assaulted just this summer. But we're also here not just because we as Jews have had a difficult year, but because we want to celebrate and lift up and appreciate the solidarity and friendship of so many civic leaders. Because we know that anti-Semitism is not a problem for Jews to fight, and it's not a problem that Jews can solve. It is a challenge for civic leaders. It is a challenge for our society. And so we are grateful for those partners who are here tonight, and I'm just going to remind elected officials who are arriving, who are not speaking, to sign in over here with Nami Nadich, and we'll acknowledge you all later. On a more personal note, here in Boston, at this Holocaust Memorial, over the last 2 years, it's been hard to gather here, and we have lost two of the giants of our community. Steve Ross, who was the founder of this memorial, and Izzy Arbeiter, his partner and co-founder, two survivors who were taken from us during the course of these very difficult 18 months. I want to thank the many co-sponsors who have joined us here tonight: the Consulate General of Israel to New England, the Anti-Defamation League of New England, American Jewish Committee, New England, the Israeli-American Council of Boston, and the American Association of Jewish Holocaust Survivors and Descendants of Greater Boston. And now it is my honor to introduce our first speaker, the president of Combined Jewish Philanthropies, which hosts this memorial site for the people of Boston, Rabbi Mark Baker.
Thank you, Jeremy, for your leadership. Thanks to all of our partners and co-sponsors, and thank you all for being here tonight. And on behalf of our entire Jewish community, I'm especially grateful to our friends, allies, civic leaders, and elected officials, and a special welcome and mazel tov to Mayor Wu. Thank you for standing by our side tonight and always as we fight together against anti-Semitism and all forms of intolerance and hatred. It is poignant that we light this Chanukiah, the Hanukkah menorah, here at the Holocaust Memorial, because this memorial forces us to remember one of the darkest moments in Jewish and human history, and to reckon with the atrocities of which humanity is capable when societies allow dehumanizing words and acts to go unchecked. But this memorial is also a testament to the resiliency and the indomitable spirit of those who survived, rebuilt, have lived lives of consequence and contribution, refusing to let their lights be diminished even in the darkest of darkness. More than 2,200 years ago, the Assyrian Greeks tried to wipe out the Jewish community living in Israel at that time. They took aim not directly at Jewish lives, but at Judaism and the Jewish way of life. They tried to wipe out Jewish practice and culture, forcing Jews to hide their identities with the goal of total assimilation. This cultural persecution included the defiling of the temple in Jerusalem, the holiest site in all of Judaism, where the daily rituals included the lighting of the menorah, a radiant and spiritually inspiring structure. They literally extinguished the lights of the menorah. So on Hanukkah, we celebrate the fact that for thousands of years, no persecution has been able to extinguish the light of our Jewish spirit. The victory of the Maccabees thousands of years ago wasn't just a military one. When they relit the original menorah in Jerusalem, it was a rededication, a revival of Jewish culture and identity in the face of those who tried to erase it. So tonight, as we light this Chanukiah like we've been doing for thousands of years in our homes and communities, we are shining a light on anti-Semitism and coming together to say, no, we will not tolerate Jew hatred or any hatred. No one should feel afraid to practice or worship or fully express themselves, not here in Boston and not anywhere. But we're also here tonight to celebrate because look at this. We're together, lighting these candles publicly and proudly in the heart of our city. Because this Chanukiah and the Hanukkah story inspire each of us to have the courage, the dignity, and the pride to wear our identities on our sleeves, to tell our stories, to illuminate our communities, this city, and our world with our voices and our light. That is a story I encourage us to tell our families, and especially our children. And that is the sacred work I know we will continue together. Thank you, and happy Hanukkah.
Thank you, Mark. Our next two speakers, I'm going to speed this along by introducing people in groups. Our next two speakers are the Consul General of Israel to New England, Ambassador Meron Ruben, and the Consul General of Germany to the New England States, Nicole Menzenbach.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for being here tonight to shine a light on anti-Semitism in the midst of the community celebration of Hanukkah. Hanukkah is our story of resilience and triumph against attempts to destroy our heritage and culture. Likewise, our fight against anti-Semitism entails the same spirit of resistance and dedication. When we light candles to chase away darkness, it should inspire us to feel hope, as well as commit us to take action and push back against the forces of hate and evil. In my first year in New England, I have witnessed too many incidents of hate crimes. But what I would like to focus on this evening is the undeniable truth that anti-Zionism has indeed become a form of anti-Semitism. This is the insidious form of anti-Semitism which disguises itself as hatred of the State of Israel. I am, of course, not talking about criticism of Israel. I criticize my country constantly, as we, like you, live in an imperfect democracy that constantly strives to create a more just society. However, there are unfortunately many examples of anti-Israel rhetoric that cross the line into demonizing Israel and holding it to a higher standard than is applied to any other country around the world. 5.5 years ago, the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, known as IHRA, built international consensus around the answer to that question. What is anti-Semitism? Dozens of nations, including the United States, developed a working definition of anti-Semitism that explicitly includes examples of unjustified animus against Israel and its definition. As we know, on many American college campuses, including right here in New England, anti-Israel events have been accompanied by age-old anti-Semitic slurs which create a hostile environment for Jewish students. This has to stop. During this past May's attack on Israel by Hamas, in which over 4,350 rockets and mortars forced millions of innocent Israeli civilians, Arab and Jew alike, to run for shelter, anti-Semitic incidents surged in the United States and around the world. This was no coincidence. Anti-Israel statements that unfairly demonize the Jewish state evoke anti-Semitism and need to be recognized as such and forcefully condemned. We ask you all to shine a light on such statements and activity and call them out loudly and clearly for what they are. The State of Israel stands shoulder to shoulder with the New England Jewish community and will do our utmost to uphold your safety and dignity. Hanukkah, our Festival of Lights, is the perfect time to rededicate ourselves to this task. Hanukkah Sameach, and a happy Hanukkah to you all. Thank you.
Good evening. It is an honor to be standing here today in solidarity with all of you, shining a light on global crisis of anti-Semitism. I would like to thank JCRC and CJP for inviting me to this important event. Hanukkah is the celebration of the miracle of light, light which conquers the darkness. Shining a light on anti-Semitism is especially important right now as anti-Semitism is on the rise across the globe. In speeches, on the street, in schools, and particularly on the internet. I stand before you tonight as Germany's Consul General here at the New England Holocaust Memorial, and I honor the memory of the victims whose names are etched into the glass of these 6 columns. Especially here in the shadow of this memorial, we are reminded exactly where intolerance and anti-Semitism can lead. Germany does not forget, and I can assure you that Germany is steadfast in its commitment to Holocaust education and remembrance. Understanding and being honest about our history is the only way we can hope to transform it into an opportunity to learn from and hand down the lessons we have learned from our darkest days. We must make sure that the betrayal of all civilized values, that was the Shoah, will never happen again. German Federal President Steinmeier has described anti-Semitism as a seismograph of the state of democracy. The more openly, the more aggressively it is expressed, the greater is the risk to our values. That is the lessons we have learned from our past, and it's a warning and a mandate for both the present and the future. Let us join together tonight and dedicate ourselves to creating a world in which we always choose the light, a world of tolerance and compassion over the dark. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for those warm words. It's now my pleasure to introduce 2 very dear friends of the Jewish community, leaders in the faith community in Boston who have stood with us in times of sorrow and times of joy, and who we have stood with to face all forms of bigotry and hatred that our city is challenged by. It is my pleasure to introduce the Reverend Carrington Moore, Director of Community Organizing for King Boston and Associate Pastor of Discipleship and Families at Bethel African Methodist Episcopal Church in Boston, and then the Reverend Laura E. Everett, Executive Director of the Massachusetts Council of Churches.
Family, it's a privilege and an honor to be with you all on today as we shine a light on anti-Semitism. There's a great poem that goes like this. I will never let you go. To and fro we wrestle until you realize I am here to stay. My beautiful dreams, I will cling to you forever and a day. My loving dreams, when you call for help in distress because our grip is getting weak, I pray my soul will be swift to answer you and be jubilant at my feet. I will never let you go because losing you is losing me. Losing us affects eternity. I have no choice. I can't let you go. We together, we are here to stay. My beautiful dreams, my loving dreams, I will hold on to you. I will cling to you forever and a day. Deep inside of all of our hearts, deep inside of our souls, individually and collectively, is a dream. A light that shines deeply that says we want to be acknowledged for who we are as a people, for who we are as a community. And today we stand here to shine a light on anti-Semitism and suggest that our differences should not bring about division, but our differences actually add to the beautiful human tapestry of life. So I stand here in solidarity and I reject zero-sum thinking that suggests that my gains is at your deficit and that your gains is at my deficit. But we stand here suggesting that love is greater than any division that is in front of us. The great theologian Walter Brueggemann says that the role of life in this moment as community leaders is to keep the ministry of imagination alive. And in this moment, we are imagining a world that is free of bigotry, of anti-black racism, of anti-Semitism, and that is the dream that brings us here together in solidarity. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., he actually says it this way. He says, I have seen the power of God transforming the fatigue of despair into the buoyancy of hope. I am convinced that in the struggle for righteousness, the universe continually bends towards justice. And we are standing here today in solidarity, helping the universe bend towards justice as we shine a light on anti-Semitism. I appreciate you all. I love you all. Remember this poem. It says, I will never let you go. To and fro we wrestle until you realize I am here to stay. My beautiful dreams, I will cling to you forever and a day. My loving dreams, when you call for help in distress because our grip is getting weak, I pray my soul will be swift to answer you and be jubilant at my feet. I will never let you go because losing you is losing me. Losing us affects eternity. I have no choice. I can't let you go. We together, we are here to stay. My beautiful dreams, I will hold on to you forever and a day. Ashe and Amen.
Dear friends, I come to you on behalf of the 18-member denominations of the Massachusetts Council of Churches, thousands of local Christian congregations, Protestant and Orthodox mainline and evangelical, historic, Black and new immigrant, housed and unhoused across this Commonwealth. We are broad and wide, diverse Christian communities, and we stand with the Jewish community in denouncing anti-Semitism in all its cunning and complex forms. We vow our prayers, our voices, our witness. And we offer our solidarity as you have stood with us. We are so grateful for the ways you have stood with us too many times, beloved, far too many times. You have stood with us this past year. You stood with us when a Black church just this year was burned down in Springfield, Massachusetts. Because this is still active and alive. You stood with us as immigrants were targeted. You stood with us as those seeking asylum found sanctuary in church basements. Thank you. Thank you for standing with us. Bless you, and God be with you. In my tradition, in the Gospel of Luke, Jesus says, there is nothing concealed that will not be revealed. Nothing hidden that will not be made known. Everything that you have said in the shadows will be heard in the daylight. What you have whispered in locked rooms will be proclaimed from the rooftops. And so these words land hard on me as a Christian, because we Christians, this light we're talking about shining on anti-Semitism, we Christians have to take responsibility. Because as uncomfortable as it is, the church has been incredibly responsible for anti-Semitism. We have work to do in our own home. For the sake of the integrity of our faith as Christians and for the safety of our Jewish neighbors, we must confront our own legacy of anti-Semitism. This is our work to do. This is God's judgment on our witness, and this is our integrity at stake. Dear friends, I promise you this. I long for the time when Hanukkah and Advent, Passover and Easter is not a dangerous convergence for our Jewish neighbors, but rather an occasion for mutual and joyful coexistence. Even a little bit of the foretaste of the joy we feel this night. Happy Hanukkah to my Jewish kin, a holy Advent to my Christian brethren, a peaceful night to you all.
I want to welcome and thank for being here Counselor Ed Flynn, Counselor Kenzie Bach, Senator Becca Rausch, Senator Sonia Chang Diaz, Representative Tommy Vitola, and candidate Chris Dempsey. It's now my pleasure to welcome up two incredible friends and champions on Beacon Hill in the cause of shining a light on anti-Semitism and on hatred and on the commitment to education of all our children on the pernicious nature of hate. Senator Michael Rodrigues, Senator for the 1st Bristol and Plymouth District, and Representative Jeff Roy, the representative for the 10th Norfolk District serving Flanken and Medway, have carried the work for years to enact a mandate in support of Holocaust and genocide education. I can't tell you how many conversations we have had with them over the years as they work tirelessly to build a coalition amongst their colleagues, to shine a light on incidents across the Commonwealth that called for the urgency of education about genocide, that lift up the work of this memorial and other spaces near here, including the Armenian Genocide Memorial only a few blocks away. And last Wednesday, they were successful in sending to the governor for his signature a bill that will mandate genocide education in every school in Massachusetts. It's my pleasure and it's a real honor to welcome two incredible, tireless champions, Chairman Rodrigues and Chairman Roy, to the stage.
Good evening. Thank you all. It's nice to be here with all of you this evening. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge and thank a few people who have been instrumental in helping us pass the Genocide Education Bill, which is currently sitting on Governor Baker's desk. Thank you to Jeremy Burton at the JCRC, Robert Trustin at ADL, and the many dedicated advocates for their support and efforts collaborating with us in the legislature to boldly stand up and say that we will never forget the lessons of the past while acting to ensure we meaningfully educate our middle and high school students on the history of genocide. I'd like to acknowledge and thank Senate President Karen Spilka for her dedication, leadership, and strong support on this issue, along with Senator Jason Lewis for his commitment. I'd like to also thank my partner, Representative Jeff Roy, for his commitment and leadership, along with my good friend and partner, Representative Aaron Michaelwitz, for his efforts as well. Finally, I'd like to thank my constituent, Dr. Ron Weisberger, Director of the Holocaust Center at Bristol Community College, who has long advocated very passionately for the passage of this legislation. As we stand here tonight at this memorial, more than 75 years after the liberation of the Auschwitz-Birkenau Nazi death camp, our society continues to grapple with the root causes of hatred and discrimination. While we know past crimes against humanity cannot be undone, we must learn from them. As members of this Commonwealth and the global community, it is our responsibility to equip future generations with the education to combat hatred and prejudice by teaching them the truth and shining a light on the lessons of the past. I look forward to Governor Baker signing the Genocide Education Bill into law very soon, ensuring that Massachusetts will use the power of education to stand against the forces of hate in our communities, broaden public awareness, and shape our collective future for generations to come. Thank all of you.
Well, good evening. It's an honor to be with you on this Festival of Lights. As you all know so well, one of the main lessons of Hanukkah is how a small group can make a big difference and how a little bit can go a long way. The Maccabees showed that a small measure of oil could provide light and outlast every expectation. In 2013, I was approached by a constituent who wanted to shine a light on the monstrous acts of genocide that have occurred throughout history. And together we filed a bill calling for genocide to be a part of the Massachusetts curriculum. In 2014, I journeyed through Israel as part of the community leader tour with the Jewish Community Relations Council. Our visit to Yad Vashem took us on a zigzag route through a chronologically and thematic trajectory on the Holocaust. There we saw reminders on the wall telling us that in a place where books are burned, don't be surprised that people will be burned. And we saw the words of Kurt Tucholsky, a German essayist of Jewish origin, noting that a country is not just what it does, it is also what it tolerates. And that journey led to a new and broadened Genocide Education Act and a reaffirmation that the commitment to never again permit the occurrence of genocide. And since the filing of the newest version of the bill, we have witnessed a rise in hate and anti-Semitic activities, conditions which send more warning signs. And we have seen alarming statistics about how the memory of past horrific events is fading. And these events strengthen our resolve to pass that act. We know that education is a key to combating hatred. Studying the core features of genocide, the driving dynamics, the politics, the economics, the ideology, and psychology is profoundly important for an understanding of the human condition. This new law will show that genocide is not just somebody else's story. Genocide education will give students the opportunity to explore how stereotypes, prejudice, and religious and ethnic hatred can escalate to atrocity. It can also deter indifference to crimes against humanity and human suffering wherever they may occur. I'm grateful to Speaker Mariano and Senate President Spilka for making this bill a priority. I'm grateful to Chair Peisch for helping craft a law that provides the resources to make a difference, and to my Senate partner, Chair Mike Rodrigues, for his commitment to getting this legislation passed. I'm also profoundly grateful to the work of the Anti-Defamation League, the Jewish Community Relations Council, the Armenian National League of Eastern Massachusetts, Facing History and Ourselves, the Committee for Holodomor Genocide Awareness, the Genocide Education Project, and the over 60 coalition members who were unified in the commitment to getting this done. We can prevent problems from becoming systemic if we shine a light on the problem and equip everyone with the knowledge, the skills, and the confidence to intervene. Genocide education is that small measure, those molecules of oil that can outlast every expectation. Education is light, and light always conquers darkness, and like the lights of the menorah, hope will not be extinguished. Thank you very much.
Incredible. Thank you. Thank you for everything you do. 30 years ago, when Stephen Ross and his partners came to City Hall and said, we want to build a Holocaust Memorial in Boston, Mayor Ray Flynn said, we need to put it right here It needs to be near the Freedom Trail, where people walking the city and understanding our legacy will see it. It needs to be right below the lights in the windows of City Hall, where I can look out at it every day along with my colleagues. Mayor Flynn chose this location. And then Mayor Tom Menino saw it to fruition, immediately becoming involved in the raising of funds and in overseeing the construction when he took office, and in the dedication of this site over a quarter century ago. More recently, Mayor Marty Walsh took on that role of stewardship, and he stood here with us on many occasions, including when we had to rededicate the space after its desecration 5 years ago. And this last summer, on a slightly warmer day than today, it was my honor to welcome Mayor Kim Janey, who joined us to inaugurate a new generation of educational resources connected to this memorial. This memorial is deeply tied to the office of the mayor of the city of Boston, to the stewardship that every mayor has brought to this site and to this sacred, sacred legacy. And so it is my great honor both to introduce and to extend a mazel tov to the newest person to hold this seat and this chain of stewardship for the New England Holocaust Memorial, Mayor Michelle Wu.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. To all of our community leaders gathered here, colleagues in government, faith leaders, friends, and so many incredible allies and warriors in this fight for social justice. I am so grateful and honored to be here with you, shining a light against anti-Semitism. Jeremy mentioned that this site has been a sacred part of the Mayor of Boston's role for 30 years now. In the light of City Hall, on the Freedom Trail, the twinkling lights of this memorial remind us every day of the stories of resilience that we must always carry, that we cannot forget the atrocities that occurred, and our responsibility, generation after generation, to ensure that we are standing together to reject intolerance and bigotry and hatred. I'm grateful to Mayor Flynn for working closely with the survivors and the founders who were mentioned earlier to choose this important site, to the long line of mayors, Mayor Menino, Mayor Walsh, Mayor Janey, who have ensured that we are standing in this sacred trust. And I'm deeply honored and resolute as I stand here today to take up this torch, that the city of Boston will always be a place where everyone has a home, where no act of anti-Semitism or hatred or racism goes unchecked, and where in every fiber of our being, in city government, in partnership with our colleagues at all levels, in this moment, we will show the world what is possible when we all come together and stand strong for a city that truly reflects every single one of us. In this Festival of Lights, it's been an incredible honor. Yesterday was hoisted up some 20 feet for the Boston Common menorah, and to be here today to see so many leaders who have taken up this charge over decades before I got here. I'm just here to say thank you. There's a lot to do. There's a great opportunity and a great obligation on our shoulders, but I know that if there's anywhere in the world that can get this right, that can truly show what's possible when we all come together in this moment, it is right here in the city of Boston, in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and I'm eager to make sure we are running towards that light all together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A historic night indeed for us. We'll close tonight with our lighting of the menorah to shine a light on anti-Semitism, and we promise we will not be hosting you up 20 feet in the air to do this. It's going to be a lot less complicated, we hope. Our service is going to be led by Rabbi Elaine Zecker, Senior Rabbi of Temple Israel in Boston, who will make some remarks and introduce us, and we'll invite the mayor and the other speakers to join her again up here to collectively press a button, I guess. Followed by a performance of the song Ma'od Tzur by the Shenanigans of Gann Academy in Waltham, Massachusetts. And I want to thank you now, instead of coming up later, thank you all for joining us tonight, for being part of this, for bearing witness, for shining a light, and especially to all of our civic partners and leaders who joined us here tonight to remind us that we are never alone in the struggle against anti-Semitism and against hatred. Thank you very much. Rabbi Zecker.
Well, this is the second night of Hanukkah, and 2 makes a big difference, though sometimes we pay a lot of attention to 10 or 7 or even 40. But when 2 candles are together, it's like the 2 Shabbat candles, each representing the way that the 10 Commandments speak of the Sabbath. One saying, Zachor, remember the Sabbath. The second says, Shemor et HaShabbat. And each of those instructions speak to us tonight. Because we heard of 2 mythic truths of the story of Hanukkah, the story of the small band who guarded what was important to Judaism, who felt that the meaning and the significance was worth the battle. And we heard of this miracle of a light that reminds us to pay attention, Zachor, not to let what can happen go unnoticed, what is possible. When you walk down this path right here, the first word that we see is Zachor, to remember, to be mindful. And that is what we heard tonight. Being mindful of what can happen when hate and injustice reign, but also being mindful that when we see the light within each person's soul, there is a great strength. And we arrive here, all of us, to be guardians, for we heard that as well, that we are guardians to take care of one another, to allow each of us to be able to flourish in our religious traditions together, unique and different and united. So we light 2 lights for this second night, and we offer 2 blessings. The first one that speaks of gratitude to God, the power of the universe, who has brought us into the sacred obligation to light these lights. And we also are grateful to God, who has brought and created miracles for our ancestors long ago, but also right now. Now, there have been 8 speakers, because it's 8th night of Hanukkah, I'm sure of that. But there is a special candle we know, the shamas, the most important candle that really ensures that all the other candles get lit. And so, our shamas tonight is our new wonderful Mayor Wu. Would you please come forward?
No torch involved. Oh, now I got that. It's done.
Here we go.
Want me to turn it off again?
We get to do it 2 times.
Because it's 2 nights. We got it. There we go. Okay, you're going to get it. Okay, so I'm going to start the bless. Okay? All right? Okay. Okay. And we sing the blessing as we now officially light the Chanukiah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner Shel Chanukah. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asa nisim lavoteinu, bayamim hahem, bazman hazeh. And we all say, Amen. And we're going to leave so you can sing.
Hi, Sophie. There's a lot of people.
Chanukah Tamizbeah.